Friday the 13th Part 3 pulls a Halloween 2, picking up almost immediately after the events of Part 2, including another recap that feels redundant. I have a hard time believing anyone who is coming into this movie hasn't somehow seen the previous entries. Even by 1982, home video was still a thing. Anyway, we get the recap. Jason comes across a shopkeeper and his wife. He takes some clothes, then proceeds to kill them in a drawn-out sequence. Moments later, we're introduced to our cast: Chris, Debbie, Shelley the prankster, Vera, Chuck, and Chili. They're on their way to Higgins Haven, which isn't far from Crystal Lake. Shenanigans ensue, which lead to a trio of bikers coming to Higgins. Suddenly, they meet Jason and are quickly dispatched. When we get to the final act, there is a heavy dose of deja vu. It recycles a lot of the beats of the original Friday the 13th. Debbie is in her hammock when blood drips on her. She looks up to see Andy's dead body. Suddenly, she gets a machete through her chest from beneath her, all echoing Kevin Bacon's death from Friday the 13th. But wait, there's more. Rick's dead body is thrown through the window, much like Brenda in the first film. Loco is hung and is revealed just like Steve Christie. Chris is hiding in the closet, much like Alice in the kitchen. Chris leaves on a canoe only to be pulled under by Mrs. Voorhees. We get a few different subplots. The most relevant one is from Chris coming to terms with a traumatic experience 2 years earlier. She was attacked by a mysterious man, and her near-death incident emotionally and mentally shook her up. Obviously, this is Jason Voorhees attacking her. Okay, I have an issue with this subplot. In the flashback, we're shown Jason as he is currently presented in this film. If this is supposed to be Jason 2 years ago, shouldn't he look closer to his Part 2 appearance? No coveralls, no burlap sack. Even without the burlap sack, he should still have longer hair. I try not to think too deeply about this, but I can't help it. Maybe I should follow the advice of the Wrong Reel podcast when they discuss the Friday the 13th series. Just take backstories as professional wrestling logic, which makes sense considering the crap writing of WWE these days.
You are a sniveling little suck-up sellout full of suffering succotash, son!
Also, Jason went through a bit of a growth spurt in that 24-hour period. In Part 2, he looked around 6 foot, 6'2". Here, Jason looks to be about 6'6", 6'7". He's visibly taller than the previous Jason and much more built. Part 2 Jason couldn't have handled someone as big as Rick, but Part 3 Jason is able to restrain him and is powerful enough to crush his head with his hands. In less than 24 hours, Jason has become a far more efficient fighter and killer. A moment that stood out to me was the tantrum thrown by Jason when he couldn't find Chris in the barn. It was a little like Leatherface's tantrum in the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And this is the film where Jason first gets the hockey mask at the 1 hour mark. A minute and a half later, he gets the machete. This specific weapon is associated with Jason Voorhees as much as the bladed glove is to Freddy, the kitchen knife to Michael Myers, the chainsaw to Leatherface, the metal orbs to the Tall Man. I could go on all day about comparisons. This is where the iconic Jason we know and love is presented to the screen. This movie has its place in pop culture. The other subplot is Shelley and his attempt to woo Vera, who was set up to be his blind date. As someone who is lacking in self-confidence and conscientious about their appearance, I can sympathize with Shelley. He tries to use humor, often a dark humor, to try to lighten up the mood. It's a common belief that making a woman laugh is a key element to making them interested in you. I'd say Shelley could just be humorous without having to use fake deaths or underwater scares. He tries to tell Vera he likes her and she turns him down. Yeah, rejection sucks, Shelley. I know it hurts, but calling her a bitch under your breath, that just makes it a little more difficult to sympathize with you. Yeah, you can be bitter, but you can't take it personal. 3D effects, when watched in 2D, are a bit of a joke. We have the pop-up snake, the eyeball from the arbiter, the pull to the camera, the yo-yo, the juggling, the spear gun, the eye popping out. These are cheesy, but they're still amusing. Other technical elements still hold up. Harry Manfredini delivers another strong music score. The makeup effects were further improved upon. The machete wishbone split, the spear gun to the eye. Steve Miner continues to move the series into a better, more cohesive direction. A lot of good stuff here. The casting lacks a really strong female lead like Amy Steele as Jenny, but Dana Kimmel as Chris does fine, even getting her share of shots against Jason. She fights back ferociously, she uses the knife, a fire log, and even tries to run him over. Jason is still much aware of his own mortality and is concerned for his own self-preservation. She knocks out Jason, she hangs him on a pulley, she delivers an axe to his head. Chris is a fighter. Richard Brooker as Jason is absolutely intimidating. I think Brooker doesn't get the credit for his turn as the famed slasher. He was basically Kane Hodder before Kane Hodder, much like how Timothy Dalton as James Bond was Daniel Craig before Daniel Craig. Larry Zerner is likely the most memorable of the cast as Shelley. Harold the shopkeeper, played by Steve Suskind, brings some brief moments of levity. David Kedms as Chuck was clearly inspiration for Mitch in the game. Fox is also in the game. Gloria Charles as Fox was a bit of a misdirection. With the film having the reoccurring element of women fighting Jason, I would have guessed she would have had her bout with him, but it didn't happen. She gets the pitchfork and she's done. Overall, Friday the 13th Part 3 is a solid entry in the franchise. Despite the silliness of the 3D effects and the questionable logic of Chris's backstory with Jason, I still enjoyed it. Whether I think it's better than Part 2, I can't really say for sure at this point, but I give it another thumbs up.